Greetings ladies and gentlemen, I'm GC Smith and welcome to day 2 of the official Aether Revolt spoiler season. We've got a ton of spoilers today, including some ones that came late last night, so let's get straight into it with Gonti's Aether Heart. 6 generic mana for a legendary artifact, with whenever Gonti's Aether Heart or another artifact enters the battlefield under your control, you gain 2 energy. Pay 8 energy and exile Gonti's Aether Heart. You get an extra turn after this one. This is a pretty reasonable spell, probably goes really well in Commander, obviously, in an artifact deck. Sometimes you just need to take an extra turn. This is also reasonable, again, with not Aether Flux Reservoir, Aether Flux Reservoir this works well with, because you can just take an extra turn to go off again next turn, I guess. But it's most probably working well with Marvel. Marvel plays a lot of artifacts as well. This could also go really well in a Metalwork Colossus deck. It's 6 generic mana, so it's expensive. Goes towards Metalwork Colossus. You play a bunch of artifacts, then play those, like 3 Colossus in one turn for free. Then exile this, take an extra turn and kill your opponent. That's probably actually where it's probably going to see most play in Metalwork Colossus, if that deck takes off after, the new set. Then we've got Greenbelt Rampager, a single green mana for a 3/4 elephant creature at rare, with when Greenbelt Rampager enters the battlefield, pay 2 energy. If you can't, return Greenbelt Rampager to its owner's hand and you get 1 energy. So this is an interesting spell, incredibly pushed, 1 mana for a 3/4, and the fact you can play this turn 2 quite easily with, the 1 green mana, gain 2 energy, look for base land, put into your hand. Shuffle your library obviously afterwards. This goes really well with that. Play that turn 1, one of these turn 2. Play an Evolving Wilds that turn 2 as well, I guess, maybe. I don't know. Maybe another 1-drop, who knows. Incredibly push, a 3/4 for what is effectively 2 mana in some ways, or a little bit of investment in energy. I think this card is stupidly busted, and we're going to see loads of play everywhere, though there is actually a good counter to that in Fatal Push that we saw yesterday, so that's good. Then we've got Greenwheel Liberator, 1 and a green for a 2/1 Elf Warrior with Revolt. As long as you can enable Revolt, it enters with 2 1/1 counters on it. Again, absurdly pushed green card. We also have a really good enabler for this, again at 1 mana. So you can set that up into this, so you can set up some amazing games with this in it. I have no words to say how stupidly absurd some of the green rares are in this set. Both of these 2 cards, just broken in an aggro decks. It's just silly. Well, I say broken, just absurdly efficient. I'm so glad we're actually getting Fatal Push. Next up we have Metallic Mimic, 2 generic mana for a 2/1 artifact creature shapeshifter at rare. As Metallic Mimic enters the battlefield, choose a creature type. Metallic Mimic is the chosen type in addition to its other types, and each creature you control of the chosen type enters the battlefield with an additional 1/1 counter on it. So this is pretty cool. You can use it to fit in any tribal deck. I can imagine some spirits, some human decks. There's going to be a lot of fun with this. The human decks especially going to be really resilient, but you can put this in dwarf decks. You can just fit this anywhere, really. Next up we have Not Admiral, 3 and a white for a 3/1 human pilot creature at uncommon. It has flying, and vehicles you control have flying. This is going to be fun in limited, giving all your vehicles evasions incredibly powerful. In Constructed, it's probably not going to see any play. It's a human, so it doesn't share relevant creature type with Depala. You'd rather it be a dwarf, really, for that. And the fact that it makes all your vehicles flying, well, all the standard playable vehicles already have flying, including the new Heart of Kiran, so I don't think this would see much standard play. Limited, though, pretty powerful. Next up, we have Winding Constrictor, a black and a green for a 2/3 uncommon creature snake. If 1 or more counters will be placed on an artifact or creature you control, that many of those counters plus 1 are placed on permanent instead. And if you would gain 1 or more counters, you get that many counters plus 1 instead. Obviously, this is meant to be really powerful with energy gaining as well as putting 1/1 counters. It goes with the 1/1 counter theme from Kaladesh. But note that this applies to negative counters as well. So obviously if you play outside of this limited format and constructed anywhere where it's powerful, you could see yourself getting some either huge negative counters, or if someone puts a -1/-1 counter on something, you could end up finding that thing dying. Still a very powerful card, goes really well with Atraxa and EDH. Not sure it will get anywhere in constructed, I don't know yet, but again very powerful and limited with Fabricate. Absolutely absurd with Fabricate, to be honest. Then we have Siege Modification, 1 red for a enchantment aura at uncommon. Enchant creature or vehicle, as long as enchanted permanent is a vehicle, it's a creature in addition to its other types. An enchanted creature gets +3/+0 and has first strike. It seems they're really pushing this white-red vehicles deck, that you just draft all the vehicles and find ways to animate them beyond crewing them, which I think is interesting. Obviously they just want to push that strategy really well and limited, and I guess it makes sense. Vehicles tend to not be overdrafted, so if you can get a few of these vehicle matters cards and a bunch of vehicles, you've got a very secure archetype. Next up we have Untethered Express, 4 generic mana for a 4/4 artifact vehicle at uncommon. It has trample, and whenever Untethered Express attacks, put a 1/1 counter on it. But the real kicker of this is it's crew 1. This is an incredibly powerful vehicle in limited, definitely first pickable with a weak rare in your pack. This is absurd. Crew 1 means it's always going to be crewed. It gets absurd, sequentially powerful. It has trample. Just a solid uncommon. There's no way I can argue against this. Next up we have Free Jam Regent, 4 red for a 4/4 dragon creature at rare with improvise, flying, and 1 and a red. It gets +2/+0 until end of turn. Very interesting card. It's going to generally be, if you build it into the right artifact theme deck, it's going to cost you a lot less than 6. You can probably in a red-white artifact deck, again if they're pushing like a red-white vehicles deck or just a generic red-white artifact deck, although red-white vehicles is generally red-white artifacts as well, I guess. This is a huge top-end curve in that deck. The fact that it's got, I'd say, strictly meta fire breathing in many ways. Obviously you have to devote 2 mana, not 1, but the fact that to get +2, you only have to, half as much red mana to get the equivalent to X of its pumping. I think that's incredibly useful. You don't want to have to pay red for every pump, so that's quite good. Next up we have Pacification Array, 1 generic mana for an artifact at uncommon with pay 2 tap and tap target artifact or creature. Very good. As far as I'm concerned, this would be very good in limited. Repeated tap effects have always been proven to be good in limited environments, depending on the right deck. The fact this hits both vehicles and creatures is incredibly valuable. It also hits other value artifacts, but I think most likely you'll be using it to get rid of the vehicle. And the fact that, you could tap the vehicle anyway once it becomes a creature, which is a better way to do it, because that way they waste their time crewing, which is cool. Next up we have Merchant's Porter, 1 generic mana for a 1/2 artifact creature construct at rare. Pay 3 in a blue, tap it and tap X number of artifacts you control. Look at the top X cards of your library, add 1 of them to your hand and put the rest on your bottom of your library in any order. This is an incredibly powerful effect, overcosted beyond belief. Probably at rare simply for its limited applications. Being able to filter through your entire deck's pretty good, and obviously very powerful in artifact decks in EDH. Being able to select the best card in your top X is very good, but probably won't get there in constructed. It's too slow and overcosted for its effect. A weak body and doesn't really impact the board in any real way, but a solid constructed effect and could see play in standard. Next up we have Ornithopter, 0 mana for a 0/2 artifact creature Thopter. Obviously, pretty good thing. The fact that if you play Ornithopter in your constructed deck, you can play the Masterpiece version is good. I absolutely love that. Reasonable artwork, solid card, goes right well actually into an aggressive deck. I was brewing up an aggressive combo deck that's Paradox Engine. You use this to help you, if you play Paradox Engine turn 1, this helps fuel Cryptolithrite. You can use this as an early creature and get a load of mana on turn 2 or 3, which is good. You can also use this to help trigger your once you've played a few creatures, played the artifact, you can use it to untap all the creatures you use to tap for mana that turn and try and go off that turn to win, which again is significant. Next up we have Hungry Flames, 2 and a red for an instant at uncommon. Hungry Flames deals 3 damage to target creature and 2 damage to target player. Incredibly powerful and limited. Burn's always powerful. Any removal spell is powerful. The fact that this removes a creature and advances your game plan, again, another incredible powerful thing. Absolutely amazing. In limited, in constructed, it probably won't be enough to get there. You have to have a target creature to target, so it's not good against control decks. It's mediocre, I guess, there. Next up we have Richcarpi Renegade. 2 and a green for a legendary creature, Elf Druid at rare. It's a 2/2, and when Richcarpi Renegade enters the battlefield, put a 1/1 counter on each of up to 2 target creatures. And each creature you control with a 1/1 counter on it has tap, add 1 green to your mana pool. This is really reasonable. Again, it can go into the deck I was thinking of where you tap things to add mana to your pool. Not as good as obviously Cryptolith Rite, but it could be like a 3rd and 4th and 5th and 6th copy of Cryptolith Rite, or helping you support that strategy. At worst, it's a 3/3 for 3. That makes another creature, if you've got one, bigger, or it can go on 2 of your other creatures. It's reasonable, definitely powerful and limited. Don't know about its constructed playability, but I can imagine turning 2 of your creatures into ramp creatures is pretty good. 3 mana ramp for 2 if you've already got 2 creatures on the board is pretty damn good, especially if your creatures are good creatures on the board. We'll just have to wait and see what we get in terms of decks. I'm not good at brewing ramp decks myself. Next up we have Greenbelt Druid. 1 and a green for 1/3 Elf Druid that taps for green. It's a 2 mana ramping spell, that ramp creature, or 2 mana dork that we're getting at the moment, because 1 mana is apparently too powerful, which, actually, given how they've been pushing green, I agree. Nothing really interesting. Next up, we've got Release the Gremlins, X and red for a sorcery at rare. Destroy X target artifacts, create X 2/2 goblin, 2/2 gremlin creature token, sorry. Incredibly powerful spell. Sideboard tech probably only, but a kind of effect that red needs in standard. The ability to destroy a load of artifacts, especially since they're going to be pushing artifact matters. I'm very glad to see. Next up, we've got Aetherwind Basker. 4 green, so 7 total mana for a mythic rare lizard creature. It's got trample, it's a 7/7, and whenever it enters the battlefield or attacks, you get an energy. And you can pay an energy to give it +1/+1 turn to turn. Huge payoff at the end, going to be amazing and limited. Constructed playability, I think it's just a bit too expensive to get there. At 7 mana, you've got better threats to be playing, to be honest. If you're hitting 7 mana, you're probably winning the game with things like Ishkana and stuff like that, so, or you're casting Emrakul because you've got Delirium, so yeah, not really that interesting, but definitely powerful in limited. Next up, we've got Industrial Tower, a rare land that can tap to add a colourless mana to your pool, or tap to pay 1 life, add 1 mana of any colour to your pool, but you can only activate it if you control an artifact. Goes well in the Marvel decks, in the Reservoir decks, in Standard. Could go well in a new breed of deck, I guess, depending on what we get, black, blue artifacts or other things like that. Could see playing modern in things like Affinity or Lantern Control. They wouldn't mind it. It doesn't die when Glimmervoid dies as well, which is significant in many ways. Reasonable spell, reasonable land, sorry, but I'm not too excited by it, but that's just me. Next up, we've got Inspirational Monuments. 3 generic mana for an artifact that gives all non-artifact artifact spells you cast improvise. Interesting in Commander. Very interesting Commander, but only in a deck where you've got a load of artifacts to cast all your non-artifact spells. In Standard, I mean, it's a mana rock towards your non-artifact spells, I guess, because it just taps itself for generic mana towards those spells. Not exciting at rare, really, but interesting effect. And I see why it's rare. It's complicated, it's interesting. I'd like to see if it ever sees play in Standard. In Limited, it might be playable, but again, only if you're in the right deck. It's not a first pick, I assume. Next up, we have Rishkar's Expertise. 4 green for a sorcery at rare. Draw cards equal to the greatest power among creatures you control, and you may cast a card with a converted mana cost 5 or less from your hand without paying its mana cost. Proves that there's a 5-colour cycle, I hope, of these expertise cards that are tied to monocoloured legendary creatures. Reasonable, incredibly, really expensive, but it draws you a load of cards, presumably, and casts you a free 5-drop, which is significant. There's, using this and then casting Ishkanar is pretty good. And again, because of the way it's worded, and the way the card resolves downwards, you draw cards and then cast a spell. So if this is your only card in hand, you can use it, draw a load of cards and cast one of those, which is good as well. Next up, we've got Aegis or Tomatin. 2 mana for an artifact creature construct at common with 0/3, and you can pay 4 and a white to return another target creature you control to your owner's hand, or to its owner's hands. Basically, it's meant to be to protect your creatures from removal, which is good. Protecting big threats, even if you have to play them again, is generally good enough. But it's still a pretty cool spell. I like it. It helps trigger Revolt, though it is expensive, but if you've got good enter battlefield effects, flashing them back at end of turn and then playing the spell again, or blocking with a creature and then returning it back to your hand, could be interesting. Next up, we've got Aid from the Cow. That's 3 green for an enchantment with Revolt. When at the end of your turn, if you've triggered Revolt during that turn, at the beginning of your end step, sorry, if you've permanent has left the battlefield, or permanent you control has left the battlefield this turn, you may reveal the top card of your library. If it's a permanent card, put it onto the battlefield. Silly in my opinion. I don't think green should be getting such easy ways to card advantage. Green's already got the best card advantage in my opinion in the format, and I don't think green should get more. Well, maybe not at the moment actually. It did though in the past, which is why I'm fed up with it getting good effects. Definitely playable with green, although I understand there's not huge many just regular mid-range green decks. But I don't want to see this in Delirium. Not that Delirium would play it, but I just don't want to see it in that kind of deck. But it does get played off the expertise we've already talked about, Richcarpi's expertise, so interesting in that regard, I guess. Next up, we've got Renegade Map, a generic mana for an artifact that enters the battlefield tapped, but you can tap it, sacrifice it, and search your library for a basic land card, reveal it and put it into your hand, then shuffle your library. I really like this card, especially for limited, for its Revolt triggering, but the fact that it can trigger Revolt in standard as well puts this really well into the driving seat of cards with like Green Wheel Liberator. It goes really well with that kind of effect. Just a solid card, absolutely love it. Next up, you've got Countless Gears Renegade, 1 and a white for a 2/2 Dwarf Artificer at common. It has Revolt. If Revolt's triggered when it enters the battlefield, you get a 1/1 servo. A 2 mana thing that gives you 1/1, pretty good, 2 bodies over 1 creature card. Definitely powerful in the right deck. I can definitely see this slotting into certain decks out there, so that's good. Definitely strong and limited anyway. Next up, we've got Aether Geode Minor, 1 and a white for a 3/1 Dwarf Scout creature at rare. Whenever it attacks, you get 2 energy. You can pay 2 energy to exile the minor and then return it to the battlefield under its owner's control. So significant things here. Whenever you attack, you get 2 energy. If it gets blocked, you can flicker it out straight away. It enters tapped and it can block. This is a significantly powerful creature. If it attacks once and connects, it's going to be really hard to remove. It's able to block, so it kind of has pseudo-vigilance, especially if you only ever use the energy you get from attacking, which is good. And it can also force you to make awkward blocks by forcing you to block a 3/1, so you don't just take 3 every turn, and then exiling itself so it doesn't die, so you waste a turn blocking. You know, it just messes with things. Very powerful limited card, very powerful constructed card. This is definitely going to go in a right white-red aggro deck. There's no reason why you wouldn't run this in that deck. There's probably other cards you'd want to replace with this. This is incredibly powerful, and it crews Heart of Kiran as well, which is significant. Just an incredibly powerful card. Next up, we have Gleam Sleeves Siphoner, 1 and a black for a 2/1 Human Rogue with Menace. Whenever it enters the battlefield or attacks, gain energy. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may pay 2 energy. If you do, draw a card and lose 1 life. It definitely seems to be in a cycle with Aether Geode Minor and Green Wheel Liberator. But the fact we've not seen any of these in blue or red yet, 2 drops, No, we've not seen a red one today. Suggests it may not be a cycle, but it could be as well, of rare 2-drops that do this kind of thing. Hopefully it is. I can't wait to see what the blue one does, but pretty nice card. Card advantage, and the fact that you at least get energy when it enters the battlefield is good. And it has evasion, which again is incredibly powerful in the right kind of aggro deck. Next up we have Mechanized Production. 2 blue for an enchantment aura at Mythic Rare. Enchant an artifact you control. At the beginning of your upkeep, create a token that's a copy of our enchanted artifact, and then if you control 8 or more artifacts with the same name as one another, you win the game. So this allows you to create loads of copies of an artifact, which is good, and it also gives you an alternate win condition. Note though, you don't need to win with the same artifact that you're enchanting, which is significant. This is interesting, is it allows you to accelerate with certain things, play a load of different artifacts, or attach this to the clue. If you're already getting loads of clues, get even more clues. Quite good. It's a bulk mythic in my opinion though. I don't think this is ever going to win you a game in standard. I could be wrong, but 8 turns or so, like 3 or 4 turns to go off, and your opponent has a chance to deal with it is significant. Could see reasonable play, maybe we'll see someone win with that, and probably more stronger in limited than anything, but I still probably wouldn't first pick it in limited. It depends on how you draft though, I guess. Next up we've got Reverse Engineer. 3 blue for a sorcery at uncommon, draw 3 cards with Improvise. Elegant design, pretty nice card for limited, for constructed. Doesn't really slot in that many decks at the moment. There's not many decks that run a bunch of artifacts in blue, other than maybe a Flux Reservoir or Marvel, so it could go in there in one of those decks. Still nice card, but I don't know, I was kind of hoping we'd get draw spells on Expertise, so I don't know what we're going to get on the blue Expertise anymore. Just don't know. I'm assuming the blue, assuming it's to do with Barrel, unless they're counting the 4 mana blue sorcery instant from the last set as Barrel's Expertise. Hopefully not, we get Barrel's Expertise. It probably won't draw cards, and it's probably not going to be a rare counterspell, I don't know. But I'll look forward to seeing it anyway, hopefully. Next up we got Yahenni, Undying Partisan. 2 and a black for a legendary creature, Aetherborn Vampire. It's a 2/2 with haste, and whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, put a 1/1 counter on it, and sacrifice another creature. Yahenni gains indestructible until end of turn. Very powerful spell. A sack outlet in standard again at 3 mana is great. I don't know of its exact use yet, but it's very powerful if you start killing enemy creatures. Note though, it doesn't synergize amazingly with Yahenni's Expertise. He will be on the stack when Yahenni's Expertise resolves, so it won't be like you kill all your opponent's creatures and then he gets counters. Still though, he's very good. I can definitely see building a commander deck around him. A sack outlet's very powerful like him. He gets really powerful over the game. Going to be insane in limited, very hard to deal with. In fact, he has haste as well, significant. Just a very powerful card. Next up we have Tezzeret's Touch. 1 blue black for a enchantment aura. You enchant an artifact, and the enchanted artifact is a creature with power toughness base, power and toughness 5/5 in addition to its other types. And when enchanted artifact is put into the graveyard, return that card to its owner's hand. So this is really powerful. It's a bit like the in Soul Artifact that we had in M15. I think it was M15, the Scissors runner, which was incredibly interesting, and the fact this is in the same format as Ornithopter as well is quite cool. But it's also significant to realise this is in a format with vehicles, so you can turn a vehicle into a 5/5 creature always, that when you that has flying or any of the keywords that creature has automatically, doesn't lose those keywords. It also returns the artifact to your hand when the artifact dies, when this is on it, which stops you being 2 for 1 so easily. That's good. I can see this scene playing limited tons. Could even say playing constructed, to be honest. There's significant artifacts out there to make this fun and powerful in those decks. Being able to just make a 5/5 Heart of Kieran that's always on, or other kind of things, is pretty good. Next, finally then, we have Rogue Refiner. 1 green blue, sorry, for a human rogue creature at uncommon, and when it enters the battlefield, draw a card and gain 2 energy. Very powerful for Marvel decks, I imagine. Very powerful and limited. It's a 3/2. It's great body, great stats, great ability. Absolutely love the card. Again, it's the kind of thing I wish I could get into my Paradox Engine deck. Not only the energy, but the draw a card effect on the enter the battlefield's great. But it's just so hard to fit everything in, really. Still a very good card. Amazing limited. One of the best uncommons I've seen in a while for a 2-colour strategy. But amazing. So yes, that's all of the spoilers for today. Hopefully I get the video uploaded and edited sometime before tomorrow. Though with an hour to go until then, maybe not. So, don't know. But hopefully you've enjoyed this video. I hopefully actually get on top of tomorrow's spoilers tomorrow, earlier. We're just out tonight, so a bit busy unfortunately when the spoilers came up. But it does mean I caught every spoiler, so hopefully this video wasn't too long for you guys. So thank you very much for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time.